Yo, listen up. Forget the soft, gentle vibes they taught you in grade school. This is the real source code. We're hitting the rewind button on the cosmos, right back to the moment the gods started playing 4D chess, and Isis was the one setting up the board. Isis, the OG architect, the mastermind behind the eternal throne. She wasn't just sitting there looking fly. She drew up the whole damn blueprint for divine authority. She is the reason the Egyptian pantheon didn't just completely flop before the first sunrise. Isis is the glitch in the matrix, the hidden power fueling every throne that thinks it's got the absolute flex, the one thing holding absolute authority together when the whole system is unstable. So here's the question, the one that makes every dead pharaoh sweat in their sarcophagus. How did she pull the ultimate spiritual heist? How did this one deity bypass the celestial firewall, absolutely break the rigid-ass system of the ancient gods, and straight up yoink the entire damn timeline, seizing the destiny of the cosmos and making it her own? She didn't just enter the battle, she rigged the game from the jump. That's how you know she's built different. We're about to dive deep into the myth that changed everything. Get hype. You gotta wipe the memory banks clean of that serene, low-key, basic mom vibe you have pictured for Isis. That persona is just a late-era filter that totally masks who she really was. A straight-up radical entity, way more dangerous, existentially terrifying. To truly crack the Isis code, we gotta tear through those later myth layers and deep dive into her frightening divine fingerprint. We're not talking about some goddess who just showed up. This is the literal embodiment of raw power that authorizes and programs the entire mechanism of governance. Aset, the empty seat that went cosmic. The only entry point to cracking the Isis code is her OG Egyptian name, Aset. This isn't just a tag, it's an encryption baked into fundamental law, symbolized by the terrifying visual of the actual throne. The core hypothesis, Isis wasn't just chilling on the throne, she was, initially, the personification of the throne itself, the hard infrastructure, the absolute skeleton of authority itself, legitimizing kingship out of existential nada. The throne in ancient Kemet wasn't decorative royal furniture, it was the brutal symbol of divine law that body-swapped a regular dude into a pharaoh, giving him non-negotiable absolute legitimacy. Henri Frankfurt saw the throne as the mother who births the king. This motherhood isn't warm biological vibes, it's foundational, legal, and straight-up terrifying. The throne creates the king, pumping him full of the spiritual juice needed to rule. If Isis is the personification of this throne, she's the icy female power that produces and backs the monarchy from the jump. She is the entire foundation upon which rule rests. And when Osiris's body got diced, the symbol of a system that collapsed, Isis, the throne, the operating law, was the one who put the shredded monarchy back together and rebooted it through her son, Horus. Stealing the throne via magical coercion, the ultimate protocol hack. This foundational link to the throne explains her subsequent moves, which were pure high-level exploits, hacking the cosmic firewall, ascending to the pantheon overload. As her role swelled, mother of the living pharaoh Horus, reviver of the dead king Osiris, and container of the law, the throne, Isis started absorbing other deities' traits. In late eras, she wasn't just a specific goddess, she became the beautiful essence of all gods, or later, the one and all in Hermetic philosophy. This insane synergy capability wasn't possible for a secondary goddess. It was the birthright of a deity whose original authority was merged with the very concept of absolute rule. Isis, the Lady of the Throne, wasn't satisfied just being a sister and wife in the divine squad. She clutched up, using wizard-level smarts and a willpower that hacks even death and time, successfully extracting divine legitimacy from Ra himself, then deploying that legitimacy to install her son as an undisputed heir. She didn't steal a physical throne, she took control of the core principle that creates and governs all thrones. Next time you peep that empty throne symbol above her head, remember you are staring at the central mystery, the undefeated power that starts as a simple seat of authority and ends up as a celestial queen who controls fate itself. She is the horrifying hidden mechanism behind the handover of sovereignty. She is the throne that became the god. Operation Game Over, breaking the patriarchal protocol. We are done with the resurrection chapter. That was just a warm-up tactic, a minor flex to prove her worth. Chapter 2 of Isis's saga is the glow-up, where she shifts from sad mom and skilled witch to the cosmic engineer who's literally rigging the threads of time and fate. A pivotal, game-changing power move where she stopped just protecting her low-key weak heir Horus and started flexing as a dominant force that transcends the authority of the male gods who came before her. This rise wasn't accidental. It was the result of a ruthless, genius application of the power laws she mastered. Total secrecy, violent magical coercion, and redefining theological concepts. Operation Code Extraction, subduing Ra with venom. To reach the absolute apex, she had to take down the biggest OG, Ra, the cosmic sun, the eternal creator title holder. Ditching Ra's authority wasn't going to happen through a head-on confrontation or brute strength. It had to be through exploiting his most primal, terrifying weakness, his decay and his need for rebirth. And here's the brutal, stone-cold truth bomb. Isis didn't wait for destiny. She manufactured it herself. The dirty venom tactic. Isis gathered Ra's spit when he was weakened and vomiting, a divine substance that was already toxic, and blended it with some pure virgin earth clay. This venom, derived from the god's own source, was shaped into a cobra ready to pop off with cosmic poison. The divine ambush. Isis set the lethal trap right in Ra's fixed daily path. The snake bit his heel, sending him into excruciating pain and a fever that dimmed his radiant light and left him withered. Cosmic blackmail, caught in 4K. At his peak weakness and collapse, Isis offered the cure for just one piece of intel, Ra's absolute, unspoken secret name. This name was the master key to controlling existence itself. Isis wasn't just a witch, she was dead-ass gripping destiny. When Ra finally caved and dropped the name in a moment of existential fragility, she didn't just use it to power herself up, she straight up handed it off to Horus, boosting her son's legitimacy to an unchallengeable level. She pulled the authority from the highest source via magical assassination. Patriarchy decay, seizing Amun's titles. Ripping apart the theological power structure meant going after the male successors. At the peak of her influence, especially during the late and Ptolemaic period, Isis started snagging titles that were strictly reserved for the heavy hitter Amun-Ra. This wasn't some cute cultural borrowing, it was a straight theological challenge and a total usurpation of legitimacy. The core matrix. This title, traditionally dropped on Amun as the ultimate universe-sustaining god, shifted to describe Isis. She became the ultimate female archetype from which all other divine beauty and godhood flowed. Other gods were just her secondary manifestations. Lady of Fate and Destiny. Isis blasted past the role of protective mother goddess to become the one who controlled human life and death, standing equal to the gods who determined fate, Shai and Renenutet. She successfully integrated the cosmic will into her magical jurisdiction. The evolution, from mom mode to general status. Isis's switch from the gentle protector mom vibe to full-on divine general status was directly linked to maintaining Mot, order, against the utter chaos of Set. When her son Horus was still a scrub kid, she used soft magic to heal him and shield him from scorpion stings and Set's minions. But once Horus leveled up and was ready to claim the throne, she dropped the passive healing and went straight into tactical conflict, generating a state of straight-up secret violence. During the Horus versus Set showdowns, you catch Isis running destructive tactical deception plays. Shape-shifting and camo. She straight up turned into a young woman to bait Set into judging a hypothetical case that exposed his faulty logic, completely frying his defense in the divine court. Direct intervention, and yeah, it got violent. In some of the grittier versions of the story, Isis intervened with a spear during a battle between Horus and Set. This forced her to replace his head with a cow's head. This shift defines the practical value of her worship. Isis is the goddess who always finds a magic solution to any crisis, whether it's resurrecting a mangled body or crushing an invading army. The ultimate trop. Tactical genius versus brute force. Power isn't measured by how big your weapon is, it's measured by your sniper-sharp aim and tactical genius. While Set was betting on brute force and violence to snatch the throne, Isis was running the whole game from the shadows, utilizing her deadliest tools, transformation, legal intelligence, and exploiting her opponent's weak points. She was interested in changing the rules of the entire game. Shape-shifting as a strategic tool, the stealth protocol. In the gods' realm, where aggression usually defined the winner, Isis's ability to shapeshift was her silent nuclear weapon, used for asymmetrical warfare. Whenever Horus was taking an L against Set, or when she needed to bypass divine security, she pulled off the shift flawlessly. The most fire scene that reveals her tactical genius shows up in her hidden legal maneuvers. Isis couldn't take the throne by force, but she knew divine law with terrifying depth. Set thought he had won, but she exploited his legal ignorance to flip the script on him. Pros don't crash into the wall, they find the algorithm that lets them walk through it. The mic drop moment. Set judged himself, caught in 4K. The pivotal story that highlights her strategic deception is the one where she used her disguise as a young, mysterious woman during the divine tribunal investigating the contests of Horus and Set. Isis, masked, jumped in to represent a hypothetical case that perfectly mirrored the crime against Osiris, a strong usurper seizing the property of an orphan child. When Set, who was present and allowed to drop his judgment, ruled definitively that the trespasser was wrong and the son was the rightful heir, Isis smiled under the cloak. She had forced him to issue a legal ruling against his own position. When she revealed her identity, Set had already condemned his own case, using the exact legal logic he thought he could manipulate. This tactic isn't magic, it's straight-up manipulation of perception, authority, and law. Smart resource allocation, strategic ROI. While Set was just running on empty, wasting energy on fighting and weak threats, Isis was investing her limited resources, like shapeshifting or her emotional leverage, into crucial flashpoints. Focus on resurrection. Instead of getting lost in pointless grief after Osiris was diced, she focused on gathering the pieces and restoring his essence for conception, a task that required hyper-precise magic and high-level arcane technology, not brute muscle power. Manipulating procedure. In the trial, she knew the Ennead, the God's Council, might side with Set, so she didn't beg for sympathy. She relied entirely on proving Set's procedural errors. Hathor's code and identity fusion. A god isn't born fully stacked. They start as positive chaos, feeding off the bones and souls of the gods who came before them. Isis, the master sorceress who would later flip the cosmic scales, was a meticulously stolen and reassembled piece of code. To grasp her power, you have to look at those roots she absorbed, the harsh mythological compromises that gave her the quantum leap from a small local goddess to a universal feminine cosmos, a universal force that devoured everything around her. Her beginnings were quiet, almost side character material within the sacred Ennead family. Her original symbol was the throne, pointing to her name, Aset. But a throne alone can't bring the dead back or conquer chaos. This is where the divine acquisition process begins, the seizing and merging of identities. Hathor, the OG mom who got ghosted, the divine override. Dead ass, the deepest ancient pyramid texts drop a massive spoiler. Isis wasn't the day one mother of Horus. That sacred slot was tied way back to Hathor, the lady of the sky, the fertility goat. Hathor was the divine mother the pharaoh was always drawn suckling. But when Osiris leveled up into the king of the underworld, Isis became the main character, the faithful wife, the reanimator. That's when the plotline started crossing in an existential clash. It wasn't a simple swap, it was a forced merger necessitated by the overall story arc. Once Isis solidified her status, she absolutely needed the pivotal motherhood attributes to guarantee the system's stability. So she low-key siphoned Hathor's most fire attributes, slowly transforming her into the mandatory, indispensable mother figure for the heir, Horus. This was total identity acquisition, stealing another's core stats just to make the next boss fight possible. The headgear is sus, the scar of transformation. The most dramatic, iconic transformation Isis pulled was changing her headgear. She ditched the steady, solid throne look for an icon absolutely dripping in family tension and dark vengeance, the sun disk between cow horns. This symbol, which became her signature look, came straight from one of the most chaotic, blood-soaked moments in the Horus vs. Set legend, the fatal clash. Isis was trying to help her boy Horus during his savage throwdown with his evil uncle Set, and something horrific and accidental went down. Mid-brawl, Horus snapped. In a fit of pure, unadulterated rage, he decapitated his own mother. The magical patch job. This act is shocking, symbolic AF. Toth, the MVP wizard, had to step in, but he couldn't restore her original head completely. He slapped a cow's head on her instead. This magical patch job gives us the original legend behind those iconic horns, a sacred scar, a visual reminder of the family drama. When Isis fully integrated Hathor's features, her headgear became the ultimate hybrid, the original symbol, the throne, and the borrowed symbol, the cow horns and sun disk. She evolved into the mistress of the sky and the mother of the gods. This accumulating power is the source of her absolute strength, which allowed her to become the greatest sorceress in the entire cosmic lineup. We're not talking about dusty relics buried under ancient sand. We're talking about a cultural DNA code that's the foundation for almost everything we consume and believe today. Isis's journey from the sacred banks of the Nile to the bloodstream of Western civilization wasn't just a simple religious transition. It was an insane mythological adaptation where the high priestess successfully carved herself into the core iconography of the West. The sacred ghosting. Isis becomes Mary, the cultural reboot. When the lights went out on the pagan temples because of the massive Christian invasion, Isis didn't totally dip out. She became the backup plan for the collective consciousness. This transformation was genius, and how totally stealthy it was. Scope the scene. Isis nursing her son Horus, the symbol of absolute motherhood, protection, and the divine blood that brings salvation. When the iconography of the Virgin Mary nursing the Christ child dropped, the similarities were so blatant that some of Isis's followers who switched to Christianity just swapped out their statues of the goddess for ones of the Virgin Mother holding her divine baby. Big spiritual patterns never die. They just get recycled and redirected. Isis, with her titles like Mother of Light and Queen of Heaven, found her way onto the new throne under a different name. If she couldn't fight the new religion, she'd just infiltrate its core icons, making her a cultural ghost who still rules the collective memory. Paris, a city under secret ISIS protection, the deep state connection. Some hidden narratives and deep dive thinkers obsessed with the origins of European cities claim Isis wasn't just a visiting deity, she was the OG founding patron of some major European capitals. Right in the heart of France, intense claims pop up about the City of Light, Paris, which is hiding its deepest secret: Notre Dame and the upside-down throne. It's alleged that the site of the famous Notre Dame Cathedral is built directly over the ruins of an ancient temple dedicated to Isis worship. This geographical centering screams volumes about the ancient grip on that spot. Issy-les-Moulineaux. Some critics and truth seekers went full send with their wild analysis, claiming Isis was the goddess of the ancient French, and that the name of a Paris suburb, Issy-les-Moulineaux, is a dead giveaway, a constant reminder of her name, Isid, and her deep ties to the city as its warden, even after Christianity took over. Literary whispers, the Virgin's consort, the psychic link. Check out the French author Gérard de Nerval, who went through a brutal mental breakdown in the mid-19th century. In his hallucinations, Isis was the only light he could see. Her message was personal and ego-shattering. I am the consort of the Virgin, just like your mother, whom you loved your whole life in all your different forms. This shows that symbols overlap, and the essence of the divine feminine, the mother, the muse, the sorceress, the creator, is one single entity that wears the mask of the dominant culture. She is the ultimate cheat code, and she is still in play. Yo, the real genius of Isis, it's her absolute busted-level adaptability. She's built different, period. She's the mom who's crying waterfalls, straight up filling the whole Nile with her tears. She's the witch who's playing 4D chess and straight up juking the OG sun god Ra himself to get the secret sauce. Isis isn't just dusty history books, fam. She's the proof that the absolute GOAT legends are the ones who master the art of the perfect stealth mission and total resource exploitation. She taught us the real magic drop is knowing how to switch your entire aesthetic to match the current vibe while still keeping that core power of the throne strapped right onto your head. That's the real finesse. Knowing the dark side of Isis lets you see that the new cultural phenomenon everyone is hyping up today, that's probably just a fresh mask slapped onto an ancient, unstoppable icon. She's a raid boss that never quits.